special moments this week that you want to acknowledge?
Why is it that our sanctuary is closed?
Our sanctuary is closed because the fumes go between the smell. So we wanted to protect it. Also, sometimes it's a good idea to get out of our normal routine and to come into something different.
Charlie, it was either this or the parking lot. And I said, no, we're going to be inside tonight.
He was arguing. Do you want to come?
Yeah, let me say a few things.
Don't start with an I didn't kiss you.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's nice to be together, and as Rabbi said, it's kind of an intimate setting down at this end of the building, while the sanctuary is off limits because of the paint fumes, but it is kind of nice. And admit it, when you this morning and you saw the snow, you said, I'm going to get an email, we're going to be on Zoom, and no, this is normal Buffalo winter.
Yeah, they're Buffalonians.
Right, we've forgotten what it's like to have normal winter weather. We either have really nice weather or Armageddon. We've had nothing in between. So tonight is actually a special night. It's Friday the 13th. And you may know that there is a fear of Friday the 13th. I wrote it down so I could do it phonetically. Yes, Charlie?
Before you go any further, I'm going to give you a Charlie Vogelism.
A Charlie Vogelism.
Friday the 13th is bad luck only for superstitious people.
I like it. I like that very much. So the fear of Friday the 13th is called Paraska Vedica Triophobia. But there's more. There is something called Sermona Paraska Vedica Triophobia. That is the fear of writing a sermon on Friday the 13th. So we'll see how well Rabbi Alex has been working to overcome that. There are support groups. He's been going regularly. I believe he's on the 5th of the 12 steps to get over it. So we'll see what he did.
True.
We'll see what he came up with. I'll be back with the announcements. We have lots of stuff coming up. And again, Shabbat Shalom. It's nice to be together in a slightly different setting this week.
So you all have your Siddurim, your prayer books here. We're going to begin with a kind of an opening, welcoming song. You want to do Yedi Nefesh?
No, we'll do the Hinema.
Hinema.
Everybody
So
knows it now.
128 if you want to follow along. And those of you not aware, there's Hebrew and transliteration. So we had a special occasion in our synagogue community. Mr. Walter Gordon over here, and I'm going to invite Diane up here. He received a very special award from his aeronautical organization, the Sustained Service Award.
Hey.
And he told me he's been working over 40 years for the volunteer organization. So what a wonderful thing to kvel about. So we decided to bring him up to light our candles. So Diane and Walter, if you could do the honors. The prayer is on page 120. Luckily, it's not a rocket. fact that lighting a fire led to the eventual right to the prophets. Incredible. All right, so Cantor's over there, so we'll do it together on 120. Let's bring in that Shabbat light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. May the light of our candles light our way through Shabbat. And if you want to lift up our Kiddush cup here, Kiddush is on page 123. You want to read? Yeah, go for it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'rasavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'yahavu ratzon v'ntilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereishit kihu yom tekilah l'mikra'e kodesh ze'er tziyah Mitzrayim kivanu b'harta eltanu kidashta mikol ha'anim v'shabbat kodeshecha v'yava u'ratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. And Mazel Tov on your award as well. Thank you. We are all kvellig. Let's turn to the reading on the bottom of 124. As we think about the door of the open area. Where is the door? I guess over there. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and unrighteousness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We'll turn to L'chadodi on page 138. We'll sing the first and the last verses. On the last verse, we'll face towards Joanne and Rich over there, and we'll welcome Shabbat in, and we'll bow as Shabbat enters, and then we'll welcome each other with our waves. the Baruch Hu, our call of community, page 146, 146. Together on 147 at the top. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leads the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarer. And that word, by the way, there's a famous feminist prayer book that instead of using Baruch Atah Adonai, they use Nivarer, just like that. We'll continue with Ahavat Olam, page 150.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael. King Adonai Eloheinu, Shabbat.
number of prayers that have to do with love. And so let's read together on 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. And part of the reason we're focusing on love is because this is Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And in honor of that, on 158, you're going to recognize this melody for the Milchamot. I got some chills there. I got a sense that, how many of you sang that on the streets at some time?
Yes, I remember there was, one of the verses was, black and white together. And there was, we shall all be free. And we shall live in peace. There were so many verses, and it seemed no matter where you went, there was a new verse coming up.
Oh, you got to have something to do with it before. Let's turn to the top of 161. Let there be love.
You know this, sing with me.
Understanding among us, let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let
All right, page 162 at the top. Linda, we're going to need your talent for clapping, please. For the Amidah, the standing prayer, 164 through 180. Take time for your own private thoughts and prayers, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated. Guard my speech from evil and my lips from deception. May the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. We're going to turn to the healing prayer on page 371. We are thinking about Alan Bernstein, Marcia Bucci, Michelle Boulin, Richard Vazibak, Paula Chardella, Sue Frank, Ida Frost, Ellen Goldstein, Karen Greenfield, Gary Greenfield, Carolyn Grosser, Charlotte Krebs, Sharon Krebs, Ruth Lansing, Miles Levy, Jill Shire Monahan, Cheryl Rossi, Brandon Ryan, Renee Schwartz, Mimi Shapiro, Gertrude Sloan, Alan Strauss, Mike Wheeler, Hanan Ezra Ben Shul, and Gasha Bat Masha. There's other names.
Nicholas Tucker and Roy Post.
Marsha Isaacs.
Dr. Ramsey?
Katie Gordon, Barbara Lebowski,
Mike Targon.
Andrew Caton.
We'll bring all those names into our hearts and others and send our prayers out to those in need. Body and soul, may we feel strength and that our prayers reach their intended destination, and may we also feel strength in our own healing wherever we are as we reach out to those in need. Okay, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So the good news, Bruce, I'm not going to talk about Friday the 13th. On April the 3rd, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Spoke at the Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee. And this is his famous From the Mountaintop speech. In the speech, he talks about God coming to him and going around to different historical points and being shown from anything from going to the Exodus from Egypt to the Renaissance to the Emancipation. And he takes it all the way to this time. And think about all the things that he had been shown in his life. And he says at the end of his speech, well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop, and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And we know that the very next day, he was assassinated in one of the worst days in American history. Amazing that he said those words, given what was going to follow. It was almost like he knew, right? There was something about being Martin Luther King that you knew that you were facing your mortality every day. You never knew where it was going to come from. I'm sure he didn't know it would be the very next day. But he had to make peace with the fact that it was possible on any day that death would come from him. And this is something that is unbelievable. We don't think like that, no matter what our age is. And you could be 99 years old. Often we just think of the next week. We have our calendar set, right? In my case, my Google Calendar, I know exactly what's going to happen every day. There are very rare moments in our life, in our national life and world life, where we are reminded that mortality could come at any moment. We better be at peace with where we are. That's the purpose of Yom Kippur. At Yom Kippur, every year, if you can do that every year and get to that point where you can feel okay with where you are, that no matter what happens, it's a big relief. Because afterwards, if something happens, God forbid, you knew you'd done everything you can, at least for a year. Last year, this Sunday, January 15th, I and my family were reminded, and the Jewish world and the world in general were reminded of how fragile life is. It is not a very normal thing when you see someone you love on the news and some type of situation occurring where you know the players so intimately. Last January 15th, it was a Shabbat. We were a little further along in the story of Exodus. Now we're just beginning it. We were actually in Shabbat Shirah, the crossing of the sea that year. And we had our service, which was on Zoom, and like so many different services. And afterwards, start getting reports. Unfortunately, this is something that's happened too often to me personally, but in the Jewish world on Saturday mornings, as soon as the phone goes off, I know that it's not very good news. But it turns out our friend Charlie Citron Walker, Charlie's wife Adina, and my wife Ashira grew up together. Adina actually got Ashira's name. Ashira was supposed to be named Adina. The mothers were all part of a group, like a bat mitzvah group, a study group at a conservative synagogue, and they were having babies at the same time. And Adina was supposed to be Ashira's name, but Adina came out first, so she got it. That's how long that we've known them. I've known Charlie and Adina since before we got married. When I first met Ashira, we got a chance to meet one another. They came to our wedding, and we've stayed in touch. So to hear the name of the synagogue, and I knew where he worked and what was going on in his life, to hear someone that you love being held hostage, where their life is in jeopardy, and you don't know whether you'll ever see them again. We didn't know early on. There were very few details that were released. If you don't remember the situation, it's a small synagogue between Dallas and Fort Worth, and there's no real Jews in this area. It's a real small town in Colleyville. This was the very first synagogue, and Charlie was actually its first full-time rabbi, so it's a very young synagogue. And like so many different places, we were on Zoom. They were mostly just streaming. So on a Saturday morning service, that's where they were. They were with the very few people. There were only 3 other people in the building at the time. And they happened to have someone ring the doorbell who looked just very bedraggled and looked like he could use a friend. And Charlie brought him in. He questioned him first, but it seemed okay, and he offered him some tea. What followed was during the Amidah, which is what we just did, the standing prayer. And Charlie, like me, he actually comes from the more traditional side of the Reform movement. He's Shomer Shabbat, he does a lot of rituals. But like a traditional way, when you daven with your back to the congregation. And when he had the back to the congregation, he heard the click. This was all being recorded live. So I think it was about 9:30 in the morning in Texas time. This is how he described it, actually. He described it today. He sent out a letter through the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. They're held hostage for many hours. They call Angela Buchdahl, the rabbi of the Central Synagogue. The person was very disconnected from the Jewish community, thought that it was the Central Synagogue, so that means she's the head of the Jews. And she took the call. It was just very strange. He's making demands the whole day. And it's been about 11, 12 hours at this point. At the end of the day, it was clear that the gunman wasn't getting what he wanted. After threatening to kill us, he hung up the phone with the negotiator. He was very calm, which was terrifying, and asked me to get him some juice. When I opened up the refrigerator, he saw a can of soda and asked for that instead. I brought him a can with a plastic cup. He had poured some soda, and I realized that he was holding the cup with the hand that had been on the trigger all day long. He had one hand over the top of the gun, but he didn't have the hand on the trigger. So I told the congregants to run, and that's when I threw the chair at the gunman and ran out the door. We all made it out without a shot being fired at us. For me, that happened about 12:30 our time, and we weren't able to sleep. It was just a terrible situation. And to see, I think Ashira turned to me and said, "Did you see the people?" Because you could see, on the television, the people running out. And to know that they were okay. It was one of those moments where I couldn't have asked for anything. My prayers and our collective prayers were for them. I just couldn't imagine, Adina without her husband, the daughters without their father. How much hung in the balance in that moment. And one of the amazing things in watching Charlie, and we're not close. We're friends through my wife. My wife talks to Adina quite a bit, and I've met Charlie and I know him and I love him. He's just the sweetest person, quiet, nice, always smiling. Just a really great guy, and he got into the rabbinate for the right reason. He loves welcoming people, as you've seen. This type of circumstance could have just changed his whole worldview. It could have destroyed everything that he ever worked for. But Charlie is someone who always had a very strong sense of ideals. He knew exactly who he was at all times. And it didn't matter if he was facing death, that wasn't who he was as a person was never going to change. There was a beautiful service a couple days after that was broadcast. It was an interfaith service that was at the church nearby. And there was, several thousand people there in Colleyville. It's a very small community, very tight-knit. People from all different faiths, and as Charlie said, no faith. And he got up and he said, in a beautiful speech, "Without love, there is no reason to know anyone, for love will in the end connect us to our neighbors, our children, and our hearts. We are very connected in this moment." Here is someone who could have said hate, who could have given up. And instead of hate, instead of lambasting this person who came in, or lambasting that person's religion, or being angry at the world, what happened, it will never leave him. I hope you can see in the description that he wrote for the ADL. he's reliving that. When you go through that, you can hear him in his mind going through all the details of what happened. It will never leave him. His children have been damaged. His wife has been damaged. They're now living in South Carolina, but this incident will be forever with them. We can never have back the moment before it happened. But at the same time, you have to believe in love. You have to believe in life. I mean, I think that's what Martin Luther King was saying there in that moment too. When we face those moments where our life is in peril, when we could give in to the hate of the world, let's not do that. The brave thing is to still believe and hope and love. When everything is against us, when we could give up, when we would just say, why live in this world with such hate? We need to, in those moments, to feel love. I think that's why we have a Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's a reminder that someone knew what was at stake and was not afraid. He stood up every day, even though he knew it likely would lead to where it led, and he didn't care, because speaking up was more important. I was at an event today for Martin Luther King through the unions here, and they gave us little quotes from Martin Luther King's life. I love this one, and I want to end with it. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. It's too important. When we face death, hopefully we come out like Moses, like Martin Luther King, like Charlie, believing that and not being afraid, because you can't be afraid of it. Death is always there. Let us stick to our ideals. If we stick to that, we're going to be okay, no matter what happens. So I think Cantor has picked out the perfect song for this. We kind of commune a little bit about what to say, but it's if we love like that. Is that the name?
Yes. Love your neighbor as yourself. What would the world be like if we truly loved like that?
Let
rise together for Aleinu, page 586.
Alleluia, Adon Hakol, Natzit Gidulani celebration, Shalom, Sanin Goyea Haratzon, Velos Amanu, Kenish Mechon Hadrama, Shalom, Sam Chalkeinu Kahem, Vegoroveinu, Kekol Hamonam, Anachnu Korim, Umishachavim, Umodim, Livnei Ba'er, Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Emor, V'hayavnai, L'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yireh Adonai echad, U'shemo,
You may be seated. We turn to the mourner's Kaddish, and we welcome those in our community that are here for grieving and for yard sites. It's really important to come together to remember those that we love. We had some recent passings. Teresa Barnack, a friend of Gail Willig-Smith, and Lita Zingaro. On our Shloshim list from the past month, we remember Dr. Michael Bloom, Simon Marcus, Gerald Jerry Reisberg, Adrian Saurer, and Dr. Sten Theander. On our yard site list from years past, we remember Sandra Antonoff, Richard S. Bluestone, Cecile Bunis, Meyer Samuel Bunis, Noah Chase, Esther Fogelbaum, Alan A. Freudenheim, Betty Freudenheim, Emmanuel Frisch, Janet R. Glickman, Evelyn Lowy Hirsch, Elaine Herzbrun, Henrietta Herzog, Jean Hubash, Herman Kahn, Bernard Kaufman, Moritz Kessler, Harriet Konowitz, Ruth Korn, Franklin Crone, Goldie Crone, Romaine Levine, Abe L. Marcusy, Sharon B. Maybach, Ruth S. Miller, Sherwin S. Bud Miller, Rose Milstein, Morris Peller, Isidore Price, Myra Rosenthal, Nathan Rothstein, Lisa Rubenstein, Clara Schwartz, David Shapoznikoff, Muriel Schubert, Sidney Schuchard, Helene Smolin, Private Samuel Snitzer, Morris Salatsky, Inez Stein, Elias Schuckman, Leo Ullman, and Herbert Weinman, and Norman Weiss. All those, if there's any other names you'd like to say?
Davis, who was supposed to go with us, he wrote his son up, that's there. Ron Settlemeyer and Bob Brown.
All those whose custom it is to rise, page 598. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah, Yalma, Digra, Pirute, V'yamlik, Malkute, V'chayachon, V'yamachon, V'chayed, V'obeit Israel, V'agalav, V'izman, Karib, Yimru, Amen, Yehei, Shmei Rabbah, V'varach, Leolam, Ulmei, Amaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yishpahar, V'yishraman, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei, Kudusha, B'rechu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tuish v'chata v'nechmata, damiran b'alma v'yimaru amen. Yehei shlom rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael b'mramin. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yisrael b'mramin. May there be peace among us in this world. And we say, Amen.
Amen.
Zikronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. You may be seated. And Bruce is going to come back to offer the announcements.
See, this is what they need at Congress. Announcements and knock-knock jokes. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you to our service greeter, Linda Bergman. Where's Linda? Down there. And for Mark and Sue down at this end, helping with the books. Pardon me? And Jill. Jill too. Sorry about that. Huh? Talk loud. I don't need encouragement to do that. Cantor
I
says.
didn't say long.
Cantor said. Cantor. No, you got both. You got both. Meaningful. That was the word for tonight's service. Thank you to Rabbi Alex Cantor Frank and Nick Seltzer for a very meaningful service tonight in honor of Shabbat. Quick mention on Martin Luther King weekend. I've mentioned this before, but back in my TV days, I was responsible for our Black History Month and Juneteenth coverage. Yeah, the white guy was responsible. That's all you need to know about TV news. That night produced the Pope's visit when he came to Toronto. That's all you need to know. But I found two really cool stories in connection with Martin Luther King and Buffalo. He made two visits to Buffalo in his lifetime. In 1958, he visited a church over on the east side, and I tracked down an elderly woman who had served him lunch on that day, and she had her memories of him. And then in 1967, a year before he died, he came here and he spoke, and former city council member George Arthur, who recently passed away, told us about how by then Dr. King had become very controversial within the African American community, and there were black leaders who would not be seen with him. Arthur Eve would not be seen with him when he came here in 1967. Really fascinating stuff. And so I think of that every year when we reach Martin Luther King Day, and I think about the words that he spoke, and you know, we still haven't gotten there, and God willing, we will. So anyway, very meaningful weekend for us. And thank you for your patience. We're down here in the open area because, quite frankly, it smells in the sanctuary. We have paint fumes in there because we're painting the social hall. So bear with us when we're done. It will be a lovely social hall. It will look great. It really will. And if you have your site and your memorial plaques are lit, please feel free to stick your head in the door and you can walk over to your plaque and see it. It's there. We just don't want to spend an hour inside there breathing paint fumes. Tomorrow morning we have Torah study at 9 a.m. via Zoom. Shabbat morning service is at 10:45 over at Temple Beth Zedek. The website has the link for that. Super Bowl squares. Go Bills. Super Bowl squares are on sale now. We have $10 and $20 squares. That's to benefit the community religious school. Talk to Joanne about that. Obviously, we're into Shabbat. She can't sell you tickets now, but she'll take care of it. Speaking of the community school, there is no religious school Sunday because, of course, the holiday weekend. It will resume a week from Sunday, which is January 22nd. Women of Shir Shalom are going to have their monthly meeting this Wednesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom. They're going to be planning all sorts of special events. They had a great game night this past Saturday night, including Bunko, taught by Nancy McGorry. Jill was the host for the evening. Thank you for doing that. I've gotten rave reviews about it, although they want gambling. They want poker for money next time.
Well, Bunko is almost kind of sort of gambling.
They want to infringe on the men's group and have poker for real money, just so you know. Speaking of real money, the Chai Club drawings every Wednesday through Purim. Tickets are $18. 3 winners each week, $18, $36, $54. And the grand prizes will be drawn the night of the Purim Spiel. That will be $180, $360, and $540. If you win, your ticket goes back in, so you have more chances to win. How many tickets did you buy?
I might get them now.
Okay, you might have to. See, you tell me to talk loud, I'm going to hock you to buy tickets.
Okay.
Speaking of our social hall, pickleball, the pickles are back in the jar for a while. Pickleball is on hold while the sanctuary is being painted. New windows are going in. I mean, by the time it's all done, social hall is going to be a really nice looking space. So please take advantage of it, use it for events. Yes?
If you can't wait, you can go to the senior center.
The Amber Senior Center? For paint fumes or pickleball? Okay. Charlie points out that the Amber Senior Center also has pickleball. But, you know, go there for now, but then come back when our games resume. David Sapphire is our chief pickle. He's the chairman of all of that, so if you have any questions about that. Before we put it on hold for the painting, People were flocking in. I mean, it was really, really crowded, and I think we're gonna plan some other special pickleball events, maybe Sherry Joe versus Jill game. I think that would be fun.
No, they have a youth night that they're
I
planning.
think youth night, I think we should have the board. I think
There you go.
the temple board should come and we should make teams. Anyway, all sorts of upcoming events are listed in your service leaflet. Take it home with you for future reference. The big one coming up, this is the Purim Spiel coming up not that far away. We're going to be getting together Sunday morning for auditions and casting and all of that. This year's theme is Beach Boys. Very, very cool. If you need anything, be sure to check in with the cantor, the rabbi, Joanne, Todd, or myself. In fact, call Todd. He's down there in Florida where it's warm. If you need anything, call Todd because he's in Florida. I think that's fair. Don't you think? Stay tuned. You don't have to go far for the Own It. It's right over there. Joanne bakes. We have all sorts of good stuff. So stick around for that. Again, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for being part of our Shir Shalom family. And everyone, 1, 2, 3, go Bills!
Hopefully we can keep saying that for a couple of
By the way, a shout out to Nick. I don't know if you know this, but when he found out we were down here in the open area, he said, "Do you want me to wheel the piano down?" I said, no, we have a keyboard, but he would have done it.
For temple members, you have an opportunity to express yourself this year in our Purim Spiel. So please don't be shy. You could be part of the chorus, you can be part of the crowd scenes, or you could be a star. I mean, and really ham it up. But don't be shy this year. We will be meeting on Sundays. It doesn't matter whether it's morning, evening, or night. We are just not going to conflict with anything to do with the Bills games. Poo, 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 poo. So don't be shy. Just reach out to me, tell me you're interested, and we'll have a lot of fun this year. Music's great.
Yeah, it's a great script. And we are going to close with another Martin Luther King themed song, Peace Like a River.
Peace like a river, everybody knows it here. The words are peace like a river, the first verse, right? Love like an ocean is the second chorus. And then joy like a fountain is the third chorus. And it is a traditional spiritual. I got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace.
return your prayer book minus the leaflet to where Robert is over there. Shabbat
I'll see where it is.
All right, good. Hello there, you're welcome. Right there. Right there, hello there. Sherry Lewis laptop? Yeah, that's about it. I know, me too.
Yeah, me too.
That's right. Yes, how many of us there?
We joked around about it every week.
Oh, okay. How did you do it? Oh, I know. I see people with the videos. I don't know how to do that. He knows how to do it.
My mind is really